The Commission trial of 1985-1986 was a landmark legal case that aimed to dismantle the leadership of the American Mafia by targeting the Commission, a governing body established by prominent crime families to mediate disputes and coordinate criminal activities. Prosecuted under the Racketeer-Influenced and Corrupt Organizations (RICO) Act, the trial indicted the bosses of the five families of New York, the Gambino, Genovese, Lucchese, Colombo, and Bonanno families. Led by U.S. Attorney Rudolph Giuliani, the case focused on the Mafia's control over various illegal activities, such as extortion, labor racketeering, loan sharking, and murder for hire. Prosecutors relied on wiretaps, informants, and decades of investigative work to expose the inner workings of the Mafia. The Mafia Commission trial, formally titled United States vs. Anthony Salerno et al., was a landmark criminal case that unfolded in the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York. Running from February 25, 1985 to November 19, 1986, the trial represented a pivotal moment in the fight against organized crime in New York City. Prosecutors, led by U.S. Attorney Rudolph Giuliani, utilized extensive evidence gathered by the FBI to take on 11 high-ranking mob figures, including the notorious leaders of the city's infamous five families. These men face charges under the Racketeer-Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, RICO, including extortion, labor racketeering, and murder. Ultimately, 8 defendants were convicted under RICO, with most receiving the maximum sentence of 100 years in prison on January 13, 1987. The trial dealt a significant blow to the Commission, the secretive governing body of the five families, which had long served as a criminal council to settle disputes and coordinate illegal activities. The case was heralded as a major victory against the entrenched power of organized crime. Time magazine dubbed it the Case of Cases, describing it as possibly the most consequential attack on the Mafia's infrastructure since the dismantling of Chicago's Mafia leadership in 1943. Giuliani's bold declaration underscored the gravity of the effort. Our approach is to wipe out the five families. This trial marked a turning point in the relentless pursuit of justice against the Mafia's far-reaching influence. In 1983, the Federal Bureau of Investigation uncovered a series of wiretapped conversations that revealed Ralph Scopo's involvement in extorting money from New York contractors. At the time, Scopo served as president of the Cement and Concrete Workers District Council of the Laborers International Union of North America, a position he held from 1977 until April 1985. Scopo leveraged his authority within the union to demand payments from cement contractors in exchange for lucrative construction contracts and assurances of labor peace. This illicit scheme centered around an exclusive network of contractors known as the Concrete Club, a group handpicked by the Commission to handle construction projects valued between $2 million and $15 million. In exchange for their inclusion in this club, contractors were required to pay a 2% kickback from the contract's value to the Commission. The scheme extended beyond Scopo's influence, with Gennaro Langella, a high-ranking member of the Colombo crime family, overseeing labor rackets tied to the Concrete Club. Langella held sway over several unions, including Cement and Concrete Workers District Council, Local 6A, further solidifying the family's control over the industry. Meanwhile, Anthony Salerno, another key player in the organized crime world, covertly maintained controlling interests in companies such as S&A Concrete Company and Transit Mix Concrete Corp. Together, these figures created a powerful network of corruption, blending labor influence and organized crime to dominate New York's lucrative construction industry. During the early 1980s, Anthony Corallo inadvertently handed the government a treasure trove of evidence that would ultimately dismantle his criminal empire. For years, Corallo and his trusted lieutenant, Salvatore Avellino, dominated the waste-hauling industry on Long Island, using their influence to stifle competition and maintain control. However, their grip began to loosen when the New York State Organized Crime Task Force, OCTF, enlisted the help of Robert Kubecka, a determined garbage-hauling business owner from Suffolk County, New York. Kubecka had resisted the mob's control of the industry since the 1970s, enduring relentless intimidation and harassment for his defiance. In 1982, he bravely agreed to collaborate with authorities, wearing a hidden surveillance device during meetings with mob associates. While Kubeka couldn't directly access Avellino, his covert recordings eventually convinced a judge to authorize a wiretap on Avellino's home phone in Nisqually, New York. Although the initial results of the wiretap were underwhelming, agents uncovered a critical piece of information. Avellino was serving as Corallo's personal chauffeur, driving him around in his Jaguar. In a daring move in 1983, OCTF agents installed a sophisticated listening device inside the dashboard of Avellino's Jaguar while he attended a dinner dance with his wife. This operation proved to be a game-changer. The bug captured hours of candid conversations between Corallo, Avellino, and other mobsters as they traveled through the city. These recordings unveiled the intricate hierarchy, history, and interfamily dynamics of the Mafia Commission. The invaluable intelligence was handed over to federal prosecutors, providing a solid foundation for the Mafia Commission trial and marking the beginning of the end for Corallo and his criminal counterparts. On February 25, 1985, a historic crackdown on organized crime led to the indictments and arrests of 9 prominent New York Mafia leaders. These individuals were deeply entrenched in the infamous 5 families that dominated the city's underworld. Among the defendants were Paul Big Paul Castellano, the boss of the Gambino crime family, and Anthony Fat Tony Salerno, the head of the Genovese crime family. Other notable figures included Anthony Tony Dux Corallo, leader of the Lucchese family, Philip Rusty Rastelli, boss of the Bonanno family, and Agnello Della Croce, the Gambino family's underboss. The list also included Colombo family acting boss and underboss Gennaro Jerry Lang Langella, Lucchese family underboss Salvatore Tom Mix Santoro, Lucchese consigliere Christopher Christy Tick Fernari, and Colombo soldier Ralph Little Ralphie Scopo. These men faced charges that encompassed a range of illicit activities, including narcotics trafficking, loan sharking, illegal gambling, labor racketeering, and extortion targeting construction companies. By July 1, 1985, the initial 9 defendants were joined by 2 additional mafia leaders, all of whom pleaded not guilty to a second wave of racketeering charges. This legal assault aimed to dismantle the mafia by targeting its ruling body, known as the Commission, which governed the family's criminal enterprises. Tragedy and violence soon followed the indictments. On December 2, 1985, Agnello Della Croce succumbed to cancer. Just 2 weeks later, on December 16, 1985, Paul Castellano was brutally assassinated, marking a pivotal moment in the bloody struggle for control of the Gambino family and underscoring the ruthless nature of the mob's inner workings. This series of events signaled a turning point in the federal government's battle against organized crime. In late 1986, Colombo hitman and FBI informant Gregory Scarpa alleged that Carmine Persico and Gambino boss John Gotti supported a bold plan to assassinate lead prosecutor and future New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. However, the rest of the Mafia Commission ultimately rejected the idea. This took place against the backdrop of significant upheaval within the organized crime world. Earlier in the 1980s, the Bonanno family had been expelled from the commission due to the infamous Donnie Brasco infiltration. While this initially seemed like a devastating blow, it ironically worked in favor of Bonanno boss Philip Rastelli. His removal from the commission shielded him from being implicated in the sweeping commission trial, though he later faced separate labor racketeering charges. For the remaining families, the commission trial posed a grave threat. Defense attorneys, after reviewing the overwhelming evidence, including wiretaps and testimonies, understood the slim chances of acquittal. Attempts to negotiate plea deals with Giuliani were met with unyielding terms. He demanded guilty pleas to the most severe charges, which carried life sentences, and the near certainty of dying behind bars. Faced with this reality, the defense teams crafted a controversial strategy. They acknowledged the existence of both the Mafia and the Commission, but argued that simply being a member or a boss was not inherently criminal. This approach initially outraged the defendants, as it breached the sacred code of omerta, the Mafia's vow of silence. Yet given the evidence, including their own recorded references to the Mafia, the lawyers convinced them that outright denial was futile. The defendants reluctantly agreed, provided they were not required to personally admit the Mafia's existence in court. This compromise marked a significant moment in Mafia history, highlighting the increasing challenges organized crime faced under the weight of mounting legal and governmental pressure. During his opening statement at the infamous Mafia Commission trial, attorney Samuel Dawson, representing defendant Salvatore Santoro, made a groundbreaking acknowledgement in open court. He told the jury there is no question that the Mafia exists and has members. However, he challenged the jury with a critical question. Can you accept that just because someone is a member of the Mafia, it doesn't automatically mean they committed the crimes charged in this case? This marked the first time the Mafia's existence was openly admitted in court, breaking decades of denials. After 6 days of deliberations, the jury reached its verdict on November 19, 1986. 8 defendants were found guilty of racketeering, with one exception, Anthony Indelicato, who was convicted of the murder of notorious mob boss Carmine Galante. On January 13, 1987, Judge Richard Owen delivered harsh sentences to the defendants, effectively dismantling the leadership of several Mafia families. Key figures received the following penalties. Anthony Fat Tony Salerno, identified as the boss of the Genovese family, was sentenced to 100 years in prison and fined $240,000. Antonio Tony Dux Corallo, the Lucchese family boss, received 100 years and a $240,000 fine. Salvatore Tom Mix Santoro, Lucchese underboss, was given 100 years and fined $250,000. Christopher Christy Tick Fernari, Lucchese consigliere, faced the same sentence and fine. Carmine Jr. Persico, Colombo family boss, and Gennaro Jerry Lang Langella, acting boss of the Colombo family, each received 100 years and $240,000 fines. Ralph Ralphie Scopo, a Colombo family soldier, also received 100 years and a $240,000 fine. Despite Salerno being labeled as the Genovese family boss during the trial, a stunning revelation emerged soon after. Vincent the Fish Cafaro, Salerno's longtime confidant turned informant, disclosed to the FBI that Salerno had merely been a front for the true boss, Vincent the Chin Gigante. Cafaro further revealed that this deception had been in place since 1969. However, according to investigative journalist Selwyn Rabb, in his book 5 Families, this revelation did not undermine Salerno's conviction or his 100-year sentence. Rabb explained that Salerno was tried and convicted for specific criminal actions, not merely for being the alleged boss of the Genovese family, making the trial's outcome an enduring blow to the Mafia's iron grip on New York. The Commission trial was a turning point in the history of organized crime in the United States. It marked the first successful attempt to dismantle the Mafia's leadership structure, severely weakening its influence. The convictions created a power vacuum within the 5 families, leading to infighting and diminished coordination. The trial also demonstrated the effectiveness of the RICO Act as a legal weapon against organized crime, setting a precedent for future prosecutions. The Mafia's legacy of power and secrecy was forever altered, signaling the beginning of its decline in American society.